Hello and welcome to your Women's Thyroid Masterclass, where we are exploring different holistic and integrative approaches to optimal thyroid health. And my name is Renee Greenberg. I am a holistic and functional practitioner who is on a mission to educate and support women in their hormone balance. Today, I want to introduce to you Dr. Joni Labbe. She's a functional health practitioner and board-certified nutritionist. She specializes in science-based nutrition with a focus on hypothyroid, Hashimotos, and hormones. She's the founder of ThyroSisters, her specialized clinic in San Diego, and is frequently seen on TV and is the author of the Amazon bestseller, Thyroid and Menopause Madness, Why You Feel So Lousy and What You Can Do About It. And it's not just menopause, it's your thyroid. Welcome, Dr. Labbe. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's a joy to be with you, Renee. Thanks for having me.
So today you're going to talk to us about 7 hypothyroid myths that could be making you sicker. And we're really interested in what those myths might be.
Yes, it's so interesting. These myths developed over the years, and I would hear repetitive concepts from my clients that would say, well, what about this and what about that? So we are going to deep dive into these 7 myths, and Thelma Thyroid here is going to help us. And I would love all of you that are viewing to print out a copy of the Thelma Thyroid and just follow along with us. Write in, fasten your seatbelt, because we are going to really go through some of these major concepts. And I want to empower you to be able to talk to any healthcare provider and have things resonate with you. Even what Renee and I say, it's important to understand different basic mechanisms, because there's 22 different biochemical pathways that are modulating your thyroid. And so we want to find out what those root causes are. What's your particular 22 different, what's happening with you? And this is why so often things are being missed when you go into the regular medical model. So oftentimes there seems to be these unrelated symptoms of hypothyroid. And I like the word finished, because this will give us a good acronym of what finished. I love that word. It means we're finished feeling crummy. We're finished with the project. And oftentimes I hear women say, I just feel like I'm invisible and finished. And I like to call this the invisible disease, because you're not finished. And we need you more than ever with your gifts and talents, and to feel good. Your family needs you. Our community needs you. So the first thing that I hear a lot about is foggy brain. And please write this down as we go. And so foggy brain, where did I park the car? What 3 items did I need in the store? What's that person's name? Simple things. To a little more complex. Could I, go back from 100 in increments of 7 quickly? So foggy brain is the first one. The second one is inability to lose weight, even on a low-calorie diet. And we've all been in boot camps where our friends lost 10 pounds, or I've been there, and I lost 2 in the 2-week period. So inability to lose weight, even on a low-calorie diet. The answer is not living in the gym and living on lettuce, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. We take very seriously no libido, which is the next thing for the N, no libido. This goes not only to sexual, and I just could care less, to also, I don't care anymore about sunsets or art or going to the movies or meeting with friends, just a lack of oomph and motivation for things that you used to feel so passionate about. That's a symptom, literally. So, then the next I is insomnia, can't get to sleep, can't stay asleep. And we're just a nation that's not sleeping, especially these days with the added layer of what's going on our earth. So insomnia is a big part of a hypothyroid profile. Stomach issues, everything from autoimmune issues like Crohn's disease, SIBO, small intestinal bowel disease, the lot of stomach issues. It seemed to insidiously get worse. Constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel. Today was good. Tomorrow, not so good. So we like to take a look at that also. H stands for hair, losing hair, not only on the eyebrows, but the the top of the head. I have clients that send me pictures of what's in the drain, and we take hair loss extremely seriously. That means that the body is shunting fats, proteins, carbohydrates from hair, skin, and nails, which you don't have to live, to thyroid, lungs, digestive tract. So we like to look at the hair. The biggest symptom that I hear is feeling exhausted. E stands for exhausted. Just severely tired. Sometimes can't, we call it wired but tired, and yet you still can't get to sleep. Severe exhaustion, when it wasn't like that before, when you remember, I used to be vital and I had a vibe that I really liked, and I don't know where my mojo went, And then the last symptom that I like to correlate with low thyroid is dry everything. Dry eyes, dry skin, dry hair, dry as the Sahara down below. You ladies know what I'm talking about. And it's just so dry. And oftentimes these symptoms are not correlated with hypothyroid. So I like to bring those to your attention because they can be. And I'd like to go just beyond TSH. In the regular medical model, oftentimes all clinical decisions are made just by TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And we're going to call this the pituitary gland, and just fill in the blanks here with me, because this is going to, the pituitary gland technically produces thyroid stimulating hormone. And thyroid stimulating hormone makes a neurological pathway or signaling down to your thyroid at the base of your neck to make predominantly T4 or 4 parts iodine. Makes a little T3, but for our conversation today, love for you to just follow, and we're taking some complex mechanisms, and I want to simplify them, because the easier we do this, the simpler. What a good thing in this day and age. Let's just keep it simple. So 4 parts iodine, that's T4. It's normal for T4 to drop an iodine and make T3. That normally happens in the stomach. We're going to call this middle dot the stomach, and we'll get there in a minute. But it makes T3, which means it drops an iodine, 3 parts iodine. Now, you have, from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, these T3 receptor sites. They help you to feel optimistic, cognitive thinking, give you energy. So even if you've had your thyroid removed, T3 is what makes your world go round. You've got to have T3 to feel like you again. And so this mechanism of dropping an iodine happens in the stomach, or what we'll call the gut area. let's call it the gut. And then in the gut, we want to look at, are you making T3? Are you making T4? And the first myth is that the doctor said I had normal labs, so I must be normal, even though I feel like I'm going crazy. And the first myth is that this signaling down to your thyroid, let's call it a taxi driver, is done with a TPO antibody. Well, that antibody is telling the thyroid to make T4. This whole mechanism can be thwarted by inflammation. Inflammation is the operative word here. And you want to test for inflammation. You want to know, am I inflamed from head to toe, just in the digestive tract? Is it a vascular thing? And we can do that. We now know if we can find out if you've got inflammation going on in your vascular system. Okay, so the first myth, just because the doctor says that you have normal labs does not mean they're normal. A, they don't test enough oftentimes. B, the TPO antibody, which is diagnostic for Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is simply the name of the doctor in 1944 that discovered this. And so Hashimoto's is an autoimmune, not just against your thyroid. Normally it is, but time and time again when I run labs, I find that the thyroid labs can be normal and yet you still have Hashimoto's. It's going after other glands in your system, like, for example, the liver, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And estrogen helps with weight control, one of the big concerns, inability to lose weight. Progesterone helps you sleep. Another issue is insomnia. And testosterone gives you energy, not being exhausted. So we want to know, what are your sex hormones? We want to know, what's your liver doing? The liver can, we can tell, do you have fatty liver? Do you, but we're really looking at how the liver is performing and then drawing conclusions about your sex hormones. And we can test you by simple, we don't have to speculate. We can test what's your progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone from simple saliva tests that can be sent to the privacy of your own home. You spit in these vials morning, noon, and night, just one day, no fasting. You send those specimens off to the lab. We get amazing results, not only about the sex hormones, but also we can find out about your cortisol levels, which are from the adrenal glands. Cortisol helps with metabolism, and you've probably heard of norepinephrine and epinephrine. These are, maybe you've heard of somebody, oh, they had a heart attack and so they stabbed them with an EpiPen and they came back. This gives you energy. And so we want to know, what is the cortisol levels? Because why? There is a huge neurological signaling back up to the pituitary that's playing on the thyroid stimulating hormone. And that we want to be able to make sure that neurological pathway is intact. Thelma was getting tired there for a minute. So this is one of the areas that we look at to see, is it really the adrenals that are causing issues with your thyroid? Is it really your liver and your sex hormones? And then the stomach, oddly enough, or perhaps you've heard, that the stomach, not the stomach, but the digestive tract in general, it's where your immune system comes from. And the largest nerve in your body, the vagal nerve, is also creating a neurological pathway back up to the same train station. We have a saying in functional medicine that we calm down the gut and we calm down the cognitive thinking, the brain fog, which is a big concern with a lot of people. So another myth is that, well, I just need iodine. Oftentimes, if they hear that you have low thyroid, it's just, let's give you more iodine. If that's great, if you need iodine, selenium, and zinc to convert T4 to T3, but that's great if you don't have Hashimotos. If you have Hashimotos, that's a whole nother discussion, and we want to have you have high levels of zinc first and selenium, titrate that up for a few months, and then we get into iodine. On the digestive tract, I used to think that many of our brain neurotransmitters were, of course, produced in the brain. But in reality, you've heard that mind-brain connection. And through the vagal nerve, this gut area is a huge modulator of your thyroid. And so neurotransmitters like serotonin, the feel-good happy hormone, GABA, which helps you sleep, GABA, serotonin, acetylcholine helps you remember why I walk into the room, and dopamine, which gives you energy. Or to say, so they're transferred up to the train station, pituitary gland, or technically to the limbic system, which is your emotions, which is why at times you could feel like, oh, I feel so crummy on a cleanse, or I'm trying to come off gluten. You're literally going off an opiate pathway. And so we can now test for these neurotransmitters, here again through that saliva test. We can find out what your cortisol is doing. We can find out what your sex hormones are doing. So those three things, let's just take, for example, fatigue, exhaustion. Well, perhaps you don't have enough progesterone, a sex hormone, or perhaps you don't have enough GABA. So there's another reason for exhaustion, or dopamine levels are low, or your cortisol, you're in adrenal fatigue and that's low. So these are three main areas we really want to look at to see, is that modulating your thyroid? Do you really need iodine? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on if you have Hashimoto's or not. So on the adrenal glands, the next myth is that, well, stress is not really thwarting my thyroid, but in reality, it really is. So we want to support that thyroid. I'm often asked, what causes this? And there's several variables that cause this. The first one, as we kind of described in being finished, is inflammation. And so the first F in the word flames, because this is an operative word, inflammation, is thwarting your efforts a lot of times, because you could be on the best diet in the world, the best medications, eating clean as a whistle, but if you have leaky gut, for example, one example, your body, in an effort to serve you, is inflaming against the fats, proteins, carbohydrates that have leaked out into the bloodstream that belong in the digestive tract. So that's kind of one of the reasons that we want to look at the inflammation. We literally test that on blood work. Leaky gut, as I alluded to before, leaky gut is literally these tight junctures are opening up, and fats, proteins, carbs are going out into the bloodstream. Autoimmune, unbeknownst to you, there's an autoimmune response. And we test for Hashimoto's on all our blood labs, but just for your information, the gold standard in testing for autoimmune is a lab called Cyrex, C-Y-R-E-X. We love them, we use them a lot. And they test in one panel. Back in the day, we used to have to send out, well, is this rheumatoid arthritis? Is this multiple sclerosis? Is this RA? Now, in one panel, you can find out if you do have an autoimmune brewing, and it will give a 10-year predictability factor, which is huge, and 32 pages of references to the validity. I mean, if we're going to say, this issue is brewing, we want to have facts. And so Cyrex Labs is one of the greatest people overnight their blood work from Asia and Europe. And so we really want to know if you have an autoimmune. So if you've had these insidious symptoms that you just can't seem to get over, test and not guess, which is one of the steps we're going to get to. You don't have to suffer anymore. Don't guess. But anyway, then the next M is for anemia. Anemia, not only iron anemia, many times hair falling out is such a concern. We test for, iron anemia, but also the storage of iron, ferritin. That can tell us a lot about hair falling out. And oxygen not going to the brain because not an iron carries oxygen, so that can be an issue. The next thing is environmental. We're talking about what's causing these autoimmunes and these symptoms. Maybe your neighbors started using a different fertilizer, or you live near a golf course. And so that it can be environmental, it can be, you might know that you've had chemical responses to things. The last is genetics. And so the S stands for genetics. You don't have to be a slave to your genetics. We can't modulate genetics. We can change the outcome of how they're expressed. And we do that through diet and science-based nutrition. So these are the main things that cause our issues with Hashimoto's or hypothyroid. So what can you do about this? Let's get to some results. The first thing I'd like you to do is to stop beating yourself up. You've made decisions in the past based on the information. We know now that if we have scans where we can tell now from the brain that if you have a negative thought about yourself, it takes up physical residence in your brain. So we really want you to watch your thoughts. Think about what you're thinking about. The other thing is, I've never met a weak woman. No matter what the background is, we're going to figure it out. And so I encourage you to not beat yourself up. It creates more inflammation. There's actually a cytokine or an inflammation that is actually going to the brain that rides on that thought of shoulda, woulda, coulda. So let's talk about eating. We all know how to diet, but I think most of us are saying, how do I eat for the rest of my life so I can be a normal weight and forget about it? And the big secret behind eating correctly is getting the inflammation down. We get the inflammation down, and these good, reasonable diets take the weight off. And so I would love for you to consider eating gluten-free. Why? Because gluten, we call it molecular mimicry. Gluten mimics your sex hormones, your cortisol, your neurotransmitters. And so it says, well, why should I make T3 for Renee? She has plenty of it. It's mimicking. So we don't want that to be in play. One of the biggest things is to go off gluten. And if you've tried to do that in the past and it was tough, don't beat yourself up. You're going off an opiate pathway, and we streamline that for you so it isn't so difficult, and you don't have as tough a cravings. So eat well. In this case, we're going to talk about eating gluten-free. Just a few things. Nuts, Brazil nuts, they're high in selenium. You need selenium to convert T4 to T3. Brazil nuts, high in glutathione. Glutathione is the largest antioxidant in your system, better than even vitamin C. So that's what the E stands for in next steps. P stands for positive attitude. This is not a Pollyanna way of thinking. The positive attitude is, there was a study done with over 1,000 women, and they ran labs on them, found that there was inflammation going on, and they gave them each $100 and told them, you can make a decision to donate this $100 to a charity of your choice, or you can give it to, you can keep it, and no judgment. And the women made their decision over various months. Well, they reran labs on them, and they found that the people that held the $100 and kept it, their labs stayed the same. They didn't get worse, it just stayed the same. But the women that donated to a charity, they were able to see a reduction in their white blood count, in their inflammation, into a lot of the references. So it's true, we are what we think. And we want to govern our thoughts and watch what we're thinking about. And a positive mindset goes beyond just supplements and eating right. Yes, that's important, but we want to talk a lot about what's going on between our ears and how we're processing challenges. And it's a lifelong process, but it's a beautiful way to come together against certain challenges that could bring your health down. So, and then the last myth is S stands for Synthroid, which is a synthetic thyroid medication. And it's that, well, I'm on Synthroid. If my dose goes up or my dose goes down, I'll feel better. Or if I change to another synthetic thyroid medication, I'll do better. That's a big myth. If you have Hashimotos especially, plain what I call vanilla hypothyroid, that can work out great. And you can have a long honeymoon effect with that. But with Hashimotos, it can create a sense of nervousness, and it's like, what, I'm doing everything right. I'm taking my medication, I'm off gluten, but it's creating inflammation. And so I would encourage you to get, be worked up from A to Z, and would love to have you change or consider going to a more natural thyroid medication, such as Armor or Nature Throid. They're literally from bovine or pig, and the receptor sites see that as natural and are more absorbable and don't inflame against it. So those are the steps that one needs to go through. I applaud you for being on this summit and being able to really get some good ideas from some of these people, and transformational, so that you see a difference in your life. And we don't have to suffer with just synthetic medication and our genetics. And well, my mom had Hashimoto's, so therefore I do. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's so much information right there on that one, on that one chart. Yeah, I totally agree. I would love what you were saying about how every cell in your body is listening to your thoughts. And I always say that to my patients as well, because it is very much a part of your healing.
Mm,
Um, and yes,
sure.
every diet or supplement that is supposed to work and doesn't, I think we have to look at that piece of it, the stress, the anxiety, all of that works against us a lot of times. So we have to sometimes do that inner work that
Yes,
helps.
yes, you bet.
And then the other part that I think is really valuable to, even like when patients are taking a synthetic thyroid hormone replacement, just doing some of these other things that bring down the inflammation can really make a big difference too, right?
Oh, it's so huge. It's a cornerstone. It's just that we've got to find out what's causing the inflammation. Is it a low grade infection? And if so, is it viral, bacterial, parasitic? What's, and this might sound daunting if it's the first time you've heard it, but we pull this all together so that with one complimentary clarity call, we can roll up our sleeves. I really listen to what's going on, and I can make recommendations for work. And uh, I'd love for you to. I wrote a book called Thyroid and Menopause Madness. It was an Amazon bestseller, and also we have it on our program that it's not just menopause, it's your thyroid, and it's 25 other things that I didn't even go into today that can be impacting your thyroid, and those things need to be explored. So we need you. You're good and valuable, and sometimes when you don't feel well for a long time, that we lose sight of how important you are, not only to your family and community, but to yourself. And I just want to encourage you to remember how strong and capable you really are.
I love that. And that is just such a beautiful way, Dr. Labbe, to end this very informative talk. And I want to thank you again for being here. And thank you for offering that great resource as your free gift.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have been here.